Welcome to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. I'm Shannon Penrod.
And I'm Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson.
Yes.
And what? April's over, Shannon.
It is
Hello.
over.
How did that happen?
I know, it flew by, did it not?
May?
It was an amazing, but how was it for you? You had a busy month.
I had a very busy month, Autism Awareness Month. I try to get out to a lot of events, especially Act Today events.
Yeah.
So it started with going to New York for the Autism Speaks military family event on the USS Intrepid. Then we had our Act Today for Military Families Run and Family Festival.
Video of that later, right?
We're going to show some video of that.
Wonderful.
Then we had the Autism Speaks walk,
Yeah, the walk now for Los Angeles.
which was amazing.
Yes.
Then I went to Special Needs Network Tools for Transformation workshop.
You did a lot of things,
Then I
Nancy.
went to the Hacienda Oaks fundraiser.
Yes.
And a lot of this is for my job, obviously running Act Today. I like to stay in touch with the community, see what the needs are, see what needs are being met by other organizations, see how we can partner, how Act Today can partner with organizations.
Absolutely.
So it was busy. And how about for you, though?
Well, I didn't do a lot of those. I'm a much more homebody, but I did this last week. I got to upstate New York for something else, but while I was there, they were doing the Oswego County Task Force was doing their walk for autism.
Okay.
So I got to go for about an hour before the walk started, and then I had to catch my plane. But we showed some pictures of that the other day on the show, and it was, you know what was amazing for me, Nancy, is that we went to the Los Angeles walk, and there were like 35,000 people there, and I thought it was just amazing, and I kept talking about the feeling, and the sheer,
the magnitude.
The magnitude,
right? The
of
magnitude,
it and how huge it was.
Yeah.
And I kept thinking that it was the magnitude that was creating that feeling, and then I went to the Oswego walk. I'm going to tear up because I did. I lost it. I got there and I went, it's the same thing. It doesn't matter how many people.
It's not the magnitude.
It isn't the sheer numbers. It's the feeling that we all have. The togetherness. When you put 3 people together, it's still there.
That's really a powerful message, Shannon.
It was. It was so, and I got all the clams. You know me, and I get that way anyway. But so I'm standing there, and it was a bunch of moms that I have been able to talk to over the years on Facebook, but never met.
And so you feel that kinship. Isn't that amazing?
We were hugging.
When you've been, I kind of felt that way meeting some of the people at the Autism Speaks walk, and that I had been communicating with through email and on social media. But I think that's important, to note that it's not about big. And we're going to be showing some celebrities today, which is great.
Yeah,
I mean, I love it when celebrities have the courage to come out and advocate for others. I think it gives us all permission to do so and to express some of our challenges. So I applaud the celebrities, but it's not about celebrity. It's about coming together and giving one another support.
Yeah.
And when I first got here today, you were saying something else that's important, and that is, we get so busy sometimes. I mean, for me, I did a lot last month, and I always have to take a step back and look at my son and his improvement and recovery. He's very high functioning now. We took him from moderately autistic to very high functioning, and I'm very proud of him. But sometimes I have to remember, he is number one.
Yeah, yeah. We talk about that all the time on the show about for you watching at home, we'll say, here's something else that you can do, but always put it through the filter of you got to take care of what's happening. Yeah, you got to take care
of your child, your household.
First. And we have to do that too.
We have to do that too.
And it's easy to get caught up sometimes. And Jem's about to be 9, and I've been really busy this last month and I haven't connected with him as much as I wanted to, and I got to constantly go, wait a second.
And it goes so fast. Their childhood goes so fast.
Yeah.
That when they're little and Wyatt being 10, I mean, it's just they're such precious. All the ages are precious, but you got to catch the joy as it flies, so to speak.
We're right on the cusp of they're not even little boys anymore, but that young boy thing.
Oh, I know.
It's about to go.
Yeah.
And I want to hang on to this as long as I can.
The young boy
I used to have a sign in my office that would go right on my computer that I would have to look at whenever I was doing anything that would say, Jem will never be this age again.
That's very important.
To remind me.
I think I'm going to put that on my computer.
Yeah. Well, it isn't on my computer anymore, but this month it needed to be. So I think I need to put it up too. Because no matter, it's good to get out and help and be a part of, but we got to take care of home as well.
That's why I tell my friends, I really don't have time for anything else. I have, my son and his autism recovery. I have my work at Act Today. Occasionally I can run still, I run, but I just don't have time for much else in my life. Yeah. It's like those two things are the major thing.
Yeah, but it's a full, wonderful life.
It is.
It's a full, wonderful life. But we all need to remember that. Boundaries, and that it's okay for us to say, no, I can't take on any more.
Right. Right.
So we're all going to give ourselves permission today to say that.
Okay, sounds good. And it's a new month.
Yes, a new month, a lot going on.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about some stuff in the news later on, but we do have some more interviews from the walk that we need to show.
We do.
And some wonderful celebrities and some other people that we didn't get a chance to show last week. So shall we just roll that?
Yeah, let's roll and we'll talk about it when we come out.
Absolutely. So take a look.
Well, I come out because I feel so connected with families. We're in this community, and this year feels really different because we have this, new prevalence of 1 in 88, and I just feel that energy of like, all right, it's time to get serious. And what I love is that not only do we have a great turnout of close to 30,000 people, but it's the people around the teams that are growing. The teams are getting bigger. So you got one kid with autism and a team of like 30 people that come, and that means the community is getting involved.
Okay.
And of course, I'm on the National Board of Autism Speaks, so I would be here regardless, but I get a lot out of it.
All right, now tell us about your foundation.
Well, Hollywood is doing great. We partnered with Cal State Northridge, and we're going to open our first Autism Compassionate Care Center in Northridge, and we hope to be on all 23 campuses of the Cal State system soon. But the idea is, and I was talking to families today, we're still having to drive from here to there to here to there. We need a one-stop shop, much like the St. Jude model in Memphis, where families can come, get treatment, not have to worry about paying for it, and they can feel good about themselves.
Rodney wrote a book. Can you just tell us a little bit about that? I think it's so important for the dads.
I love Rodney's book. It's called Not My Boy, and it's a father's journey with autism, and I'm so proud of it because Rodney calls the dads the forgotten parent sometimes. So it's just really important to have his point of view from a macho ex-NFLer, to talk about how he tweaked his expectations for his son. And I think it's been very helpful for dads.
I'm going to perform the national anthem in front of thousands of people.
Are you at all nervous?
No.
You're not nervous? How do you not be nervous?
Because I know I'm going to nail it.
Oh, high five. Shannon and I are going to be out there watching, okay?
That's right, Nancy.
I am here with Gary Cole. Now, you all recognize Gary, an amazing award-winning actor and also an autism dad. Gary, you have a daughter.
I do have a daughter, yes I do.
And her name is?
Her name is Mary, and she's 19 years old now.
And I heard some very exciting news about Mary.
Yes, Mary is off to Lynn University in the fall in Boca Raton, Florida, so we're very excited about that.
Off to college, people.
That's right.
That is what the right kind of treatment and support can bring. And this is a tough question, but what has this journey been like for you?
I'm sure I'm like a lot of parents. When at the beginning there's a lot of unknown. We found ourselves in a situation where we were pretty fortunate. We got an early diagnosis, which I thought was very important, and a lot of dedicated specialists and teachers and therapists. With her hard work and me driving a lot, she really, she came a long way, and she still has challenges. Some of them social, some of them academic, but she seems very adaptable to them and actually knowledgeable and aware of them, which I think is important. And she's been amazing, and we're very proud of her.
As a father of a daughter with autism who's going off to college, what advice would you give to a parent who has a child that's newly diagnosed?
Do research early. It's never too early when they hit high school to start looking at things, if that's your intention. And find a place that's gonna give them plenty of help if they need it.
Why did you decide at a time when I have to say a lot of celebrities were not public about their children having autism? What made you come out and bravely, you and your wife Teddy, become spokespeople and activists for this situation?
When Mary first got her diagnosis, and we were certainly uncertain as to what to do or what was going to take place, really the only resource that we knew that we had some kind of connection to happened to be some other parents that had gone through the same thing. Without their experience and their kindness towards us and sharing the information and pointing us in some directions that we had choices to get Mary help, it would have been that much more difficult. And then so we thought, as long as once in a while I was semi-visible, that maybe that could be used to, kind of spread that process, which, as you see here today, that's really what it's all about. It's really kind of helping the next guy. And there's that fear you get when you're told something that you didn't expect. But the amount of information, the more you get it, that fear begins to subside. Right. And that anxiety, and you just go and you do the next right thing. And I think that's what, prompted us to say, no, we should tell somebody about this.
It's crazy. Just because you're on a TV show, you have some extra reach. So I take that responsibility to heart, and I want to just do everything I possibly can. Well, my best friend's little sister has autism, and she's been such an inspiration to us. And I have an amazing group of girlfriends. There's 11 of us here today. We're all around, and we thought this would be an amazing cause, an amazing day to get everybody together, raise as much money as possible, and support the research.
Right now, we're joined by a very special guest, Max Burkholder, and you guys know him because of Parenthood. He plays Max on Parenthood, the young boy with Asperger's, and you're doing a really wonderful job doing that. As a parent of a child, I am loving how you're doing that. But let's talk a little bit about what it's like for you as an actor and what kind of research you did to play somebody with Asperger's.
Well, I do a lot of research by going on the websites of organizations that help to treat autism, and just sort of try and see what they help to deal with. And also every few episodes or so, I'll get together with the director and the executive producers and a doctor who specializes in Asperger's, and we'll just sort of talk about how Max would react in certain situations.
My son Kevin Hosseini is an artist in the book, and he's 17, been painting since he was 9, and I had tried to find venues for him to find places for his art to be seen. And in the process, I started curating shows for other people with autism, and then it's kind of like an organic process how these books came about. Other artists started sending me their work, and this book has 77 artists and poets from around the world featuring great art. They are Asperger's and autism, and it's stories of families, love, and determination. It's not just the art and poetry. It's really about families.
It's really emotional for me to be here every year. I think, will I get used to the walk? And I never am, because I think when Wills was little, my son Wills, who's now 14, I felt so isolated, like a lot of us do when we have kids with special needs. And when I see this, although I know, because I work with Autism Speaks, that all of these families exist, but when we're all together, it just, even now I have chills, it reminds me that I'm not in my own little dinghy, but I'm in a big family with a ton of support, and not just me, but I see parents with the little ones, and I feel so good that they're here. And I wish I had been here when Wills was little. I wish I had, this had been here for us. So it's really exciting, and it's really emotional.
And how is Wills doing?
Wills is doing great. In fact, Wills is with Team Frostig this year, and Frostig School is unbelievable. And their school for kids with special needs, and their whole concept is to to bring them into Frostig and then to release them into mainstream schools. And Will's is being mainstreamed next year, his freshman year, just as we had planned when he came into Frostig. So Frostig did their job so well that we're so sad to leave them. But the teachers there and the staff, and I just can't tell you, that school changed our lives. And they're here walking because of all of our kids at Frostig with autism, but not all the kids there have autism, but they're here anyway because it's an amazing school. So yeah, Will's is doing great. He's over there. He made a lot of signs. He was very busy this week.
What are you working on now?
I'm working on my third memoir, and it's supposedly, we keep pushing back the pub date, but now it's looking at a spring of 2013 release.
All right, Mr. Asner, tell us about
You can call me Cuddles.
I can call you Cuddles. All right, Cuddles, tell me about your connection to autism.
Well, I have a son who is autistic, and I have a grandson who's autistic. So I tend to think I must be responsible.
Okay,
and doing everything I can to absolve myself of the sin.
All right, now what about parenthood? You have taken a real proactive role in getting the word out about autism and Asperger's on that show.
All right. The point is to just keep talking and drive our enemies. That's the keepers of the funds in cities, state, and feds. Drive them nuts until they fork over.
Okay, that's the strategy?
That's the strategy.
Okay. All right, well, I want to thank...
Make them give till it hurts.
Okay. What do you think about the new numbers, 1 in 88?
And 1 in 54 for boys.
What do you think about those?
I think it's one of the few real assessments of our society that you can get these days.
Okay.
As opposed to unemployment.
Now, if you had to say anything to an autism dad out there, a word of advice, what would it be?
Celebrate.
Celebrate, that's interesting. Do you see it as a blessing?
It is. It is. If we lived in an autistic world, it would be a more peaceful world. If we lived in an autistic world, it would be a patient world, an understanding world, a reaching out world. We would extend ourselves, and they in turn would be able to open up and impart the very special talent and knowledge that each autistic possesses.
He had me in tears there at the end, right?
I know. How delightful was he?
Well,
was
I'm in
so
love
gracious.
with him. I told him.
We'll have to break that to your husband.
I said, well, he knows.
Yes.
He says it's okay. I told him, I said, I cozied up to Ed Asner today, and I made him say to me, "You've got spunk." He loved it. Anyway, he also knows I'm in love with Bruce Springsteen. It's okay.
So it's all
okay. Good. So anyway. He just touched me with his remarks, and let's kind of talk about our impressions of everybody.
Yeah.
Holly Robinson Peete.
Oh, well, she's such a delight always. She's so on it always, and intense and wonderful, and she's so beautiful.
God, I know.
She's so strikingly beautiful.
She's gorgeous. We love her husband Rodney, and we want to have him on the show.
Yeah.
She kind of makes me feel like a slouch because she does so much. Well, she does so much. Well, we've all got somebody that makes us feel like a slouch. She does so much.
Yes, she does.
And continues to have a career.
Yes.
And, she's just really inspiring. And we saw RJ, her son, who wants to be called Rodney now, and
that's wonderful. And she's, I've had the opportunity to meet her a couple of times when she's with her kids, and you can tell that she's a very hands-on.
Oh
mom,
yeah, definitely.
And that it's about her kids, and I think that's one of the highest compliments that I can give.
Yes.
Because she'll be in the middle of an interview, but her children will be there, and she'll be talking to them, and you see clearly that that's where her attention is,
right.
Instead of being in front of the camera.
Yeah.
And she's a lovely, lovely person who's getting it done, raising a whole lot of money.
She is, and you heard about her partnership with Cal State Northridge. So we'll try to get her on the show, and we'll ask her to come on, and we'll also ask Rodney, who we spoke about his book, which is so important for the dads.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'd like to say to moms who might be watching today, get it for your husband, get it for your child's father, and fathers who might be watching today, get it for yourself.
Absolutely. And she co-wrote a book with her daughter as well on siblings. It's a children's book that's a lovely book too.
That's great.
It's a great service.
So she's been so active and so out there, which we applaud. Hunter Brown, the little boy who sang the national anthem. Now, I had been friends with his mother on Facebook and other places, and we've been talking about having him to an event, and we will. And is he not just a beautiful boy and delightful? And
I'm so excited to be there and you know, and to sing for that many people. And at one point you said to him, you know, you're going to be nervous. No, because I'm going to nail it. I just loved it.
And he did, and he was just darling. Then we talked to Gary Cole.
Yes, and it wasn't he just amazing? I think both of us just really loved him because the idea that he was one of the first celebrities to come out.
He really was. I mean, his daughter, Mary, is, as he said, going off to college.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, and he and his wife, Teddy Cole, became very public about this early on. He is the spokesperson for the HELP group, which is one of the largest autism schools in the country. And we will, in the future, have some people on from there, and Barbara Firestone, who runs that, is doing amazing work. Also a pioneer in the field, like Dr. Doreen Granpichet. So anyway, Gary is the spokesperson for them, and he's been there in the early days when nobody talked about recovery. No, biomedical was unknown. And they have gotten this young girl to college. They have gotten this girl to college.
It's really amazing. Really amazing. And I have to say, there's something about when the dads speak that is just delightful for me because we don't see it as much. We just don't see it as much. And to have an articulate male talking about his feelings, it's just precious.
A couple of years ago, my husband was honored. My husband, Reed Jackson, was honored by the Best Buddies Society Foundation. And Gary Cole and Rodney Peete were honored as well. And they all got up and gave a little speech about why they do the work they do. And there wasn't a dry eye in the house, let me tell you. Not a dry eye in the house when you hear them talk about their children with autism. It is how it has transformed them as human beings, how it has made them better men. Better men. And they know it.
Isn't that a wonderful thing? We had Vince Redmond on the show yesterday, who's a marriage and family therapist, and we were talking in particular about diagnosis and the dads and how a lot of times the mom and the dad will be on a different page, and he was giving us some great tips if people want to watch the rerun of that show.
I want to watch it.
About how we need to be patient and how we need to ask, how sometimes we forget in our, whoever takes charge, whoever the project manager for autism is, sometimes takes charge and forgets to look back and say to the other person, what do you need? And that sometimes we need to prime the pump and say, it's not always the dad. Sometimes the dad's Johnny on it and talking about it, and the mom isn't, you know. But to be able to say to the other person, "What do you need? What can I do for you? What's the hard part for you?" When my husband finally admitted what the hard part was for him.
What was the hard part?
You know, it's a very weird story that we had been flying to my niece's wedding, and it was about 8 months after my son had been diagnosed. We'd already started ABA, but we got bumped off of all these flights, and we got stranded in Denver and had to rent a car. And my child had had diarrhea all over every plane, all over everything. So we were out of clothes at midnight at night in Denver, having not eaten, trying to find, you know, clothes to change him into. And my husband broke down in tears. And I remember sitting there saying, now is the moment when you're going to break down and cry. And because I said, what's going on? Are you just overtired? Are you want to go home? What? And he said, no, I'm just realizing that he has autism. And I'm, you know, now in this moment, and the week before he had gone to see a performance of To Kill a Mockingbird, and our son is named Jem after the little boy in that play. And we've had, you know, both of us have been, our lives before were very involved in theater, and so he was sitting there and watching the little boy playing Jem and realizing, I don't know if our son is ever going to be able to perform in a play and experience the joy. You know, how Rodney Peete talks about, I don't know if my son's ever going to play on a team.
Yeah, and that's what my husband talked about, because he was at Fox Sports at the time Wyatt was diagnosed. And it was very hard for him to never have a child that would play ball, to never have a child. But Wyatt is playing softball on a special league team.
There you go.
But he's playing it.
And my husband was saying, will my son ever be able to be in a play? Is he ever going to be able to speak so that he could memorize a line? And feeling the grief of that after we'd had this horrible day on planes and covered in diarrhea. And I reached across the table and said, you know what? We don't know what's going to happen, but whatever happens, we're in this together. And he said, you know, that's absolutely right. And maybe, you know, and my son has been in a play now.
Yes.
And, you know, so, but it was a real moment for me as the spouse to say, oh, he's having his own thing with this. It's different from mine. But yes. But I think I had lost that, Nancy, in my, we must get ABA started, you know?
Of course, we all do. We all do.
In any case, Gary Cole was fabulous. And you got to talk to that lovely Kristen Ritter.
I did. And she was either on The Tonight Show or Conan last night. She is so delightful. And she was there supporting a team of her friends, I think it was, who has a sister with autism. And, you know, in that show, I guess she plays a real piece of work.
Well, they call her the bee.
Yeah, and really self-absorbed. This girl could be she is the antithesis of that character. So natural and beautiful and sweet and down to earth. Yes. Not this vampy bee. Yes. So anyway, she was a delight.
And Max Burkholder from Parenthood.
Yeah, darling.
What a sweet teenager who's doing such a good job depicting Asperger's on that show.
Amazing.
And the research that he's been doing and how conscientious he has been about that. I certainly appreciate that as a parent. And did you see that lovely book that Deborah Hosseini had from The Art of Autism?
I didn't get to look at it closely.
Oh, this is a wonderful coffee table book that everybody should have.
Okay.
And featured some of the artwork that's also on the stamps that were featured by the UN this month.
Oh.
Really beautiful, beautiful, amazing. There were poems in the book. There are sculptures, paintings. I'm telling you, it's breathtaking.
Okay.
It's so interesting. I advocate everybody should get two. Keep one for your coffee table and one to give as a gift.
Okay.
It's wonderful, and it supports great arts programs for our kids. And then, of course, Monica Holloway, who we adore.
We love her. Yeah.
If you haven't read Cowboy and Wills, her really amazing book, she's got another book that's coming out, but I laughed all the way through Cowboy and Wills.
Is her next book about autism?
Well, she said it's a memoir, and, you know, so obviously there, you know, some aspect of it, but she was saying that it's more about going home. So we'll have to see what aspect of her life. Yeah, so we'll have to see, but I'm sure that autism has touched any other autism mom has touched every aspect of her life, so we'll see.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the lovely Ed Asner, who just, you know what was amazing to me was we were taking pictures with him, and my son was there, and my son was so excited because he's the guy from Up. You know,
oh yeah, yeah.
He's so many things to us.
Mary Tyler Moore for us.
Right.
And he's been on Hawaii Five-0 lately. Did you know that?
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, doing guest starring roles. I mean, the guy is out there.
He's still out there doing that. But for my son, he's the voice of the guy in Up. And so he was excited that he was going to get to meet him. And so he wanted to be in a picture. And so you and I were standing there with him, and my son came over, and I whispered in Ed Asner's ear, I said, this is my son, this is my boy. And everything changed in that moment. And he was all about talking to my son and so gracious with my son and having a conversation. And I just thought that was so sweet, because it had been a long, hot day.
Yes.
And it would have been very easy to just be like, you know, let's get a picture and get out of here.
No, very gracious with the children themselves.
Yes, yes. And so I thought that was really remarkable. And I think he was loving you just as much as you were loving him, Nancy. The two of you cuddled up like two little kittens. It was very cute.
I think he's great. We will have him here anytime, any day to talk. And I am going to remember what he said about wearing the feds and wearing the people down in business. Well, you know, get the money, fork over the money, help our kids, help our kids. The money. That's right.
Wonderful, wonderful stuff. But we want to show another event that you were at, the Act Today event, the Run for Military Families. Talk a little bit about what that event does and what it means.
Okay. we have a campaign or a program at ACT Today called ACT Today for Military Families.
Right.
And that program was started a couple of years ago when I became aware of, at that point, higher rates in the military of autism and the stresses and strains upon the military family. And when I found out about this situation, I talked to the ACT Today board and said, let's have a special program or fund for these families. So we started it, and we started it with the help of a great autism mom named Karen Driscoll, who's now with Autism Speaks, heading up their military family efforts.
And I have to say, I have to stop you for just a second and applaud you, because you really were the one who broke ground on this and saw the need and were the first one. And I love that there are more organizations that are now following
I do too. I mean, we need the help.
But I really have to applaud you that you're the one who started
Well, thank you. I started it with Karen. Karen brought it to my attention, and I said, I'm new here. I mean, our first conversation, that was 4 years ago then. I said, I just took on ACT Today and as executive director, but I will start this with you.
Yeah.
So we did, and we have raised hundreds of thousands of dollars specifically for military families. So I'm very happy about that. We also have a camp coming up, a filmmaking camp with Joey Travolta, who of course is John Travolta's brother. The name is so recognizable, but he in his own right is an actor, a director, and an incredible teacher of special needs kids. We're going to be having him on May 23rd, and he's going to tell us about the program. It's going to be for military families, children with autism who have parents in the military or a parent and their siblings. So typical kids can go as well. And it's going to be in San Diego, and hopefully we'll be doing more of these around the country. But it's going to teach filmmaking skills. So we're really talking about an educational, vocational program. And the social skills that come from it are so amazing, because more than anything, I think when our kids on the spectrum with Asperger's and high-functioning autism and all along the spectrum, what they want is to belong.
Yeah.
They want friends.
Yes, absolutely.
They need that camaraderie.
Absolutely.
So this is going to give them that. And when you're a child with autism and your family, you're a military family, you move on average every 2 years, Shannon.
Amazing.
Can you imagine the stress?
I can't. I absolutely can't.
And then sometimes a parent deployed for a year. I mean, Karen Driscoll's husband was gone for a year in South Korea, and she, her boys, 13, 14, critical ages, to have a father figure. And, my heart just goes out to these parents that are often temporarily single because they have a spouse deployed. So we started this. The ACT Today for Military Families Run and Family Festival, which we have every April in the San Diego area, down near SeaWorld at Fiesta Island. It is a great way for the community to come together, much like Autism Speaks Walk Now.
Right.
We have this run and fun. It's a fun walk too and a fun run.
Right.
And we have elements for the children. We have all kinds of fun things: bouncy houses, resource fair, entertainment, food. So it's not just about the athletic activity, and you can have teams. So, and whether you're military or not, to support our military families with children with autism. And when we give back, we get back. It always works. It's karma. We feel better about ourselves. So we talked about the run. We talked about it when we were getting ready for it. And now we have, I believe, a video that Emily, our technical director, has, and she's going to run for us now.
Because I can't wait to see. I didn't get to be there. I was going to be there.
It was really fun.
But I want to see.
Yeah, so let's take a look at that.
Absolutely.
This is the second annual ACT Run for autism and military families. We're down here in San Diego. It's absolutely gorgeous morning. All right, let's just start moving. Let's move those feet. I know it's a little chilly. Some of you are just arriving. Hey, you guys are looking at it. I want to remind you, you are running to raise money for an amazing cause. Our military families with a child of autism. You guys are heroes. Thank you.
So are you ready to run? Go!
someone who's had a lot of friends who've had children with autism, and I'll tell you, there is nothing more heartfelt than watching the support that this organization provides for families and for militaries and for children.
Whoa, look at this little silver bullet on the side. He's gonna win it. Oh my gosh, tackle him. Way to throw down a killer personal best, of course, on your Act Today 10K. See, look at that. That is a serious commitment to no limits racing.
You know, a lot of times you hear things about autism, you're hearing about people trying to find a cure, but what happens to the people who are living with it daily with their children? And Act Today supports them with grants and funding for a helmet, for example. They say in the lifetime of a child with autism, you can probably expect to spend about $3 million. So Act Today helps out with those things.
1 in 88 military families have autism. That's entirely too much. We have an autism epidemic. It's almost impossible for families to get the care and treatment they need, particularly the military family, who moves on average every 2 years. Oftentimes they have a parent deployed. Their children do not get the care and treatment they deserve.
I hope all of you guys enjoyed running today. We're extremely humbled to get to be the title sponsor of this great event, and it's going to grow every year. We started off as a small company with a big vision, and a few years later now we've donated over $750,000 thanks to generous support and generous marketing from our charitable partners.
All right, here now we go. On 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
This is international. Beat mega radio smasher. I had the time of my life, and I've never felt this way before. Yes, I swear this is true, and I owe it all to you. Oh, I had the time of my life, and I never felt this way before. And I swear this is true, and I owe it all to you. Dirty bit. Dirty bit. Hey, 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 clap your hands, everybody. Come on, clap your hands. Yep. I came up in here to rock, light a fire, make it hot. I don't wanna take no pictures, I just wanna make it hot. I was going to get wild, that's my side.
The fact that you have the band going, you have friends here, you have just a great atmosphere, why not come out? And you're in Southern California. You can't get better.
I want you to know you made a difference today in the lives of families with children with autism. You guys are amazing. You're activists. You guys rock. Bye, everybody. See you next year.
This event would not be possible if we hadn't had the tremendous support of sponsors.
We encourage everybody to join us next year. The party's going to be bigger and better than ever.
Okay, well that was delightful.
Okay, you're coming next year.
Yeah, I wanted to come this year.
Yeah.
I just was doubled
I know
over going to the emergency
That's
room.
right.
So
you had a really good excuse.
It was my intention.
And you know, I don't take Wyatt because I'm working and I'm running around, you know, dealing with everybody. But there was a brief shot, and I said to you while we were watching, that father, that girl has Rett syndrome.
Yeah.
And I talked to the father afterwards, who was retired military. And sometimes when you see the courage of some of these families, it really, really causes you to pause and reflect, to express gratitude, and to realize there are so many heroic families out there dealing with so many levels of autism.
Yeah, you do that gratitude check. Because whatever you're going through, there's that moment when you realize, oh my gosh, people are going through this on a level that I don't even know about. And
this father had heard me on the radio somewhere and had come out and entered and was pushing his daughter, did the 10K with his daughter in a wheelchair. No spring chicken, this guy, you know, great shape, looked like a military guy.
Right.
And, you know, you look at a father like that and you realize the challenges he's been through with dealing with his daughter's challenges. And you just got to say, there are everyday heroes out there, and we know that to everybody that's listening.
And it's amazing that part of this journey is getting to meet those people and to see that kind of courage. I always say I've yet to meet the autism parent that I don't like.
I know.
That's an amazing thing, you know?
I know.
But I also have to say, on a much fluffier note, that I was giving Nancy grief during that while I was watching, and I was going, look at you, you always wear the right thing, you always look appropriate, you always, and I said to her, I said, I kind of love you for it, and I kind of hate you for it. And
I said, that's okay, tell everybody that.
Because you always have it pulled together.
Well, you know what, I think that's from my background in television when I was a producer and helping hosts get dressed, like Lisa Gibbons. And I worked with Vicki Lawrence, Lisa Gibbons, the Mommies, a lot of different people, Richard Simmons, a lot of different people. And I was always having to help, well, Richard, no, he wore dolphin shorts. But Lisa was a particularly elegant person, but as an executive producer, you work with them on their look, you work with them on everything.
Well, you're going to have to take me in hand at some point.
I'll take you in hand, but I want you to know that everything I wear is really old. I just happen to buy classic because everything has to be easy. As an autism mom, you know, everything has to be easy, especially if you're working.
You know what I want to do at some point? I want to give away a makeover and have some autism mom get a makeover that you take them shopping and
you know what? We'll bring in the makeup person. We'll bring in the hair. I've got people for it. Let's do it.
Let's do that.
Let's do it in May.
Very exciting.
We'll get a winner for Mother's Day.
Okay.
Okay. We'll do it in May.
Work on that. Okay. Wonderful. But what a lovely event.
Lovely event.
Some serious money.
We raised some serious money, a little over $100,000.
That's amazing.
It's going to go directly to, I mean, we do have some event costs, but after that, everything goes, once we take out a little bit of the event cost, it all goes to the grants.
What a wonderful thing.
And next year, it's going to be bigger and better than ever. We're going to start promoting it early. If you can help us promote it, if you can help us with a team, get started early, we need you there. We need people there. We need people to run. We need people to fundraise.
Well, and one of the things that you guys said to me early on when I first found about what you were doing was that you were saying, do a lemonade stand.
Absolutely.
Sell hot dogs. Every $5 that you send, every $10 that you send, it goes to a family in need that's in the military, and it all adds up.
That's right. So, you can have your own event. We encourage people to do that, and we'll help walk you through it.
Okay. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Now, we have a lot of things that have been going on in the news.
Right. It's going to slow down, I think, a little bit now because everybody waited, from what I understand. Is this what you heard, to release the findings of studies?
I have not heard that, but that makes a certain amount of sense.
I heard that in order to get the most press, that a lot of these, or you go, now I get it. But a lot of the publications, a lot of the organizations, a lot of the institutions that were putting out the information, they waited until April because they thought more media, television stations, newspapers, radio would be interested in finding material for Autism Awareness Month. Now, that is the reason we do our run in April. It's the month of the military child and Autism Awareness Month, but a lot of these studies and news-breaking stories as well. So a lot of the scientific journals. So we have had a lot of information coming at us, and sometimes you and I, before, when we're planning each week's show, we will sit down and we'll go, what's interesting? What do we think is going to be interesting to everybody that is watching us? Right. And sometimes, we're really combing through, really looking. Other times it's like, oh my gosh, there's too much. Yeah. And that's this month in April. It's been like that.
And so we'll
so do you want to kind of go through some of the things we haven't talked about with our viewers, and then let's kind of give brief reactions? And
absolutely. That there's a new study that came out that they're calling it a promising possibility of a drug to treat autism. What they've done is taken mice that have specific traits that seem to be autism-like.
Okay.
Repetitive or lack of social interaction.
Right.
They gave them this drug, and they're seeing that it has, the drug is called GRN-529.
Okay.
And in particular, social isolation and repetitive behaviors that the mice displayed. Now, keep in mind that these were mice who were born with these characteristics.
Okay.
So we have no idea whether this is going to transfer to
mice are actually
children.
born with those characteristics?
Yeah, apparently.
That is really interesting to me.
Yeah, isn't it? They injected them with this experimental...
Mice that are on the autism spectrum.
Yes, and it reduced 2 of their repetitive behaviors, excessive grooming and jumping, that are normally associated with rodents engaged more with other mice. So it reduced those. They're saying it's not a cure by any stretch of the imagination, but that if it were to also reduce repetitive behaviors in children with autism, that it would leave them more likely to be able to benefit from behavioral therapy. Absolutely.
And access a curriculum at school.
Absolutely.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I think, you know, I as a parent would ever consider a medication of any sort, a pharmaceutical medication, that if it helps my child access a curriculum, really helps them absorb therapy better. If they've got behaviors that are really interfering with them absorbing, you know, therapies that we know are proven, then, or their education, if they can't access learning in the classroom, you know, I think you can consider, but as of now, to my knowledge, there are no pharmaceutical drugs that conclusively do that. Is that correct?
There's nothing conclusive.
There is nothing conclusive.
Nothing.
And if this becomes conclusive, now I understand
it's a long way out.
And the science officer from Autism Speaks is involved with this, I understand. He's the nonprofit, Ring is his name, I see, with Autism Speaks. Yeah.
Oh, there
Ring,
you are. There yep, there you are. Robert Ring was involved with the study.
Vice President of Translational Research with Autism Speaks.
So Ring says the possibility of the drug that could treat the symptom of autism, even if it's not a cure, could improve the quality of life for autistic individuals by making behavioral interventions more effective. That's the quote.
So this is not just, this is something that an autism advocacy organization is involved with.
However, they're saying that even within the study, they're saying they have not made the leap from the mice to people. They're starting a study with a group that are from Fragile X. That have that disorder, and they're going to see what comes of that.
Well, that's the first step, right?
That's the first step.
Okay,
so
good.
Interesting, you know, just to keep you up to date on these things, but they're pretty far away from. Now, here's the new one. If you remember that about a month and a half ago, we told about a study that showed that smoking is not one of the risk factors, that they could not find that there was any correlation to smoking and prevalence with autism. Now, there's a new study that has come out that says smoking during pregnancy may increase autism risk in children.
All right, so who do you believe?
Hello. Right, who do you believe? Although, and they say in particular in this case, Asperger's, high-functioning Asperger's is more likely to occur if the mother has smoked, and they cite the fact that what we said, which is we know that the incidence of low birth weight children, they're more at risk for having autism, and that when you smoke, you're more at risk for having a low birth weight child. So they cite in this study, a bunch of different reasons why it may cause someone to be more likely.
Do they say in the article that because the child is possibly low birth weight, they might be more susceptible to environmental triggers?
They do discuss the fact that when you are smoking, your fetus's ability to be able to get rid of toxins is greatly hampered. So they do cite that.
Well, you know.
And they cite a bunch of other things aside from autism, cleft palate, you know, miscarriage, stillbirth, premature, low birth weight, all of those, sudden infant death syndrome. So there are a lot of reasons why you should not be smoking.
But I do believe that some of this information needs to be presented in full. And I know it's hard, like in a headline, but you know, smoking causes low birth weight, which makes a child more at risk for environmental risk. It triggers, which we know.
I don't know that they've been able to put it all together, but it's common sense to a certain different degree. Now, here's a new study that I thought was, initially I looked at it and I went, duh, why are we doing these studies and when we already know this? But the headline is, being left out puts youths with special needs at risk for depression.
My reaction is sort of, that would be obvious to me.
Right, duh. But what I do appreciate is as they questioned a whole bunch of individuals with different special needs. So it wasn't just children with autism, and they questioned them about their depression and why they feel depressed. The quote that is really interesting to me here that they say is, what is noticeable about these findings is that despite all the many challenges these children face in relation to their chronic medical or developmental diagnosis, being bullied or excluded by their peers were the factors most likely to predict whether or not they reported symptoms of depression. So we've talked on this show a lot about bullying and excluding children from things and how important it is that they not be excluded, but here we have yet another instance we're showing that those children are also, and of course it's a duh, that of course they're going to be depressed if they're being bullied. Their incidences of that are going to go up. But what we see is that despite all the other things that they could be depressed about, this is the most likely factor that will predict whether or not they're going to be depressed. If that doesn't say to people that this needs to be worked on, then I honestly...
Of course it does, and as inclusion becomes more, as inclusion is promoted and needs to be promoted, a crucial part of inclusion is educating typical children about children that are atypical, children on the autism spectrum, to show love and compassion and support for these kids.
Absolutely. But you know what I have to add to that, Nancy, that it seems like to me, and you know, only in my experience, but the kids are so willing to learn that. They're so willing to learn that, but it's their parents we got to educate more. The kids, a little bit, that they need to have the programs, absolutely, but they're willing to take that ball and run with it. If you give it to them, and I love that, but it's the parents that are the harder nut to crack.
There's a lot of programs being developed. We're developing one at ACT Today, and that'll be launching in the fall. And
tell us again what the name of it is.
Well, it's called the Compassion Project, and Compassion for Autism is cool.
Yes.
So, and we're going to be working with some young people on this spectrum to get them out there to speak on this issue. So
and I love that.
Yeah.
But I want to add, as you guys are doing it, I want to add a component where the kids take it home to their parents.
I agree. That is so important.
That's what needs to happen.
That is so important. And we also should speak with the Organization for Autism Research, because they have a great kit that is about a boy with autism coming into a classroom and how he may be different.
Yes.
So some of the things kids should be aware of. So we'll get them on the show, or we'll share that information. I'll remember to bring that in.
But I would like to put it out to everybody who's watching, and you know, I think we need to bring some of these stories to light about how children are being bullied. So maybe Nancy can use those in examples as they're doing these presentations.
Right. And we did talk last week, before we went into some of the teams and families we met at the Autism Speaks walk. We talked about the father who audio recorded his son's teachers and aides at his school in New Jersey, Cherry Hill, New Jersey, I believe.
And that was the big story of the week.
It was huge. I'm not really sure where it's gone. Have you been following it? Because I have not.
I will admit that I have not. I was in New York, and so I have not followed as much.
I haven't either.
Okay, so
we did reach out to the father. His email bounced back because it said it was, I think going haywire. He probably had every network news cast and morning show calling him.
But eventually we hope to have him on and to talk with him about
from what the feedback I'm getting is he's a folk hero. Basically parents and kids on the spectrum. I talked with Jesse Saperstein yesterday, who we had on the show, who has an anti-bullying campaign, a young man with Asperger's who's out there doing public speaking and does work with ACT Today. He said, I think he's a folk hero. And a lot of parents have said that as well. So it's going to be interesting to see where that goes, because that's important to know.
You know what I did hear? I did hear one thing, that the teacher is saying that she was not in the room. When all this was happening, she was saying it was AIDS and that she was not in the room. Now, I don't know.
Where was she?
Well, that she went on a coffee break. And I'm like, it's an extended coffee break. From what I heard on the tape, it'll be very interesting. But that is the defense that was offered up, was that she was not in the room.
And that one aide has been assigned to a different district or fired, I believe, one or the other.
And that I don't know.
Okay.
But,
probably the aide whose voice you hear the most, who is the most appalling, who caused the child appalling obscenities, who says things to the child that are so damaging for his self-esteem, who speaks so inappropriately in a classroom that when I have friends of typical children that heard this, they were enraged. And doubly enraged that this was a child with special needs. I have to say, that was the universal reaction.
It's, you know, everybody, I was at this event on Friday. It was a drama festival, and so there were all these teachers and all these high school students, and it was the topic of conversation. Had nothing to do, this event had nothing to do with autism, but people were talking about it. And I kept being drawn into the conversation about it, but everybody was talking about it and saying how shocked and outraged they were.
Because bullying is universal. It's not just our children, although more than 80% of children on the autism spectrum are bullied. So it is a particular interest if you have a child with autism. This is a really important issue for parents who have children with autism. We have to work on this. But the anti-bullying movement has become huge, and I am so happy to see that. I am so happy to see Taylor Swift, Lady Gaga, once again, celebrities in our culture really lead the way when it comes to public opinion. So there's so much about bullying, the movie Bully, but bullying with autism is its own issue.
It is.
And we have to get that front and center in the conversation.
Absolutely.
So I think this is an important study.
Yes.
As you say, it's not a, well, duh. It's a, we need to look at this and we need to take this more seriously.
Absolutely.
And we need to look at where adults are on this, and we need to realize we set the tone for our children. That teacher, that aide who is so appallingly inappropriate and cruel sets the tone for the other aides, sets the tone everywhere.
And
the head teacher
in that room and heard that and didn't report it before the tape came out is as responsible as the person who
That's
said
like watching somebody, you know, being attacked and standing there and saying nothing. So we do have to be accountable. We have to be responsible. And I'm off my soapbox. What's next?
Well, we're at the end. This is the end of our hour.
Wow.
So I know it flew
Next time I won't go on and on and on.
No,
but
I think that's part of our job is, as mothers, to be that way. If not us, who?
Okay.
So you get on that soapbox, girl. I was saying earlier, she's fierce. Did I not say that? And I'm glad you're on my team, because I absolutely, I think we need to get fierce about it. But in any case, as this show closes, the conversation continues.
The conversation continues. Please write us. Please tell us the topics you want to hear, and just give us feedback. And we want to hear from you, your questions, your feedback, everything.
Yes, we're here always to support you and continue the conversation. But we don't want to be mind readers, right? Never.
No, we don't.
But we're going to be back next week, and we've got some really exciting shows in the hopper.
We do. Coming up, as I said, we've got Joey Travolta coming up to talk about the inclusion films camp and the things that he's done with children with autism. Amazing.
But is it next week or the week after that we have Valerie Vanneman?
I'm not sure, but we'll put it on the.
Valerie Vanneman, wonderful special education attorney with us next week. We'll check that. But really exciting, a whole bunch of guests that we have lined up for you, so it should be really wonderful. But we will enjoy your comments.
So
watch us on Blip. Watch us on YouTube. You can download us now on iTunes as well. It's a free download. I don't know if you've done that yet, but it's a really.
I haven't yet. I'm juggling so much social media and technology. I'm overwhelmed.
But it's very exciting to be able to download us on iTunes, and if you want to give us a review on iTunes, we really appreciate that. And very soon you'll be able to download just the audio portion. So if you want to listen to it while you're running or walking or in your car, you can absolutely do that. Nancy, it's always such a thrill. I love it when you're here with us.
I had so much fun, and we'll see you next week. So make it a great week with your kiddos.
That's right. Bye-bye till then.